Le rappel de soi, je ne me souviens de rien après ça. D'une part, c'est tout pour arriver à Chambery, pour trouver un parking gratuit, pour le premier et seul rendez-vous possible au guichet. C'est moi-ci. Je peux donc travailler à Brexit.
Arrivé ici, c'est Chambery. Sure it's me you wanna talk to tonight. Everyone in town's got your number. Everybody's got you pegged right. Is that why?
Conseil pour les voyageurs, ne marchez pas à travers les fontaines, inconscient par une froide nuit d'hiver. Park and play. Vous avez toute la nuit complète pour chercher et trouver. La vieille vie d'une ville européenne, peut-être ye olde days mais, le château est si grand que le centre de vie. Est avec
Prudence! Urgence! Regardez le air!
In tips terms, that first responders calendar just felt of such establishment. So good I could spend it twice. Grignoter, croquer, munch through.
Asseyez-vous.
Brunch at last. Ethnic street and limited but early morning options. But I prefer stay hungry when scared of last minute hurdles of administrators.
Je fais semblant d'avoir tout compris. Et il y a un type qui pleure dehors. Sur mon visage de la poudre d'or. Je ne tiens pas debout. Le ciel coule sur mes mains. Je ne tiens pas debout.
My trade and craft skills have been hugely useful in getting me through 7 years of university. I'm an architect, technical based, as well as front-end design work, but really specialise in the maître d'œuvre end of things rather than the pretty concept pictures. Design technology teaching projects need a stages of making sheet, a bit like assembly instructions that you might get with a product that you buy, if all abilities of learners are able to fully participate. I should warn you that I tend to drive long distances and work with no radio. But I love music. It tends to come back to me and speak to me, tell me in advance what task needs doing in what way sometimes, and just keep me company. I was to have a little tussle with authority at a subsequent season. By that time, the Marie, the mayor of the most nearby village down in the valley, and the actual mayor for me up the mountain a bit had both been amalgamated as one by central government in an effort to save money, improve efficiency and slightly reduce numbers of civil servants and administrative burden in themselves. But as far as I can see, there's been no clear plan about what to do with all the mayor's offices. The big fancy mayor's office on the hill just does children's school dinners now. So now one mayor has more staff and works out of a porter cabin while his old antique type offices are being renovated, and the other mayor has the same large office and is only responsible for children's school dinners. This time I'd been sent a letter saying, "Your gutter's falling down, it's a danger to people, secure that danger." I went into what in larger towns is called the Hotel de Ville, I think, Le Marais, and made an appointment with what in Britain's called the Clerk of Works, or used to be called the Clerk of Works. I returned some time later to keep that appointment with the man. He was old and probably quite cantankerous, but he was on his best behaviour and quite cheerful and welcoming the first time I'd ever met him. The staff, the secretaries, were very helpful. One of them spoke very good English. I'd understood him, what he was trying to say, and he'd understood me, but he wanted the translator secretary there. Not her official job at all. So the old fella gave me all the paperwork and gave me the certificate, I think it is. Basically, I had permission to close the road outside my house. I'd asked for 6 weeks, I was given 1. There was a look on his face like, "I've given you an impossible task." They were even helpful printing out a couple of photocopies for me. My French was improving a little bit, certainly compared to my first Marie visit. With 2 tall properties, it was perfectly sensible to do an IPAF course some of the time while I was in Britain. This is working at height in a cherry picker. So I'm certificated for Europe, or was before Brexit, don't know what's going to happen to that. But cherry pickers are so expensive to hire, and the scaffold, temporary scaffold tower is so familiar. Just not particularly familiar with putting up 9 metres height of it and working with my feet at 9 metres above the ground. Assemble the temporary scaffold, do the task, and disassemble the temporary scaffold. Task being new swan neck, gutter, downpipe, which took about 1/3 of the time. The scaffold 2/3 of the time. At one point it really didn't look like I was going to be finishing early, but I got charged more for returning the tower scaffold early. Number of days compared to a week's charge. A week was cheaper. But the guys in the office liked me. Did me a favour on the price.
Ma petite folie, mon petit grain de fantaisie.
I complied with the Marie Clerk of Works instructions. All paperwork was displayed. Nice little plastic weathering closed vouchers, Polly Pockets, on my salvaged pedestrian barriers. So 12 metres of road, because of safety margin, blocked off 2 neighbours driving to the house. Rustic neighbour had no problem with this. He could go round the back. He's got a little back track. But someone had visited and called the immediate neighbour. Who and how? We'll cut that part of the story short. It's such a headache that the defunct Marie's wife, mayor's wife, is like a bit like his counsellor or something. Counsellor in terms of she listens to him. She actually drives by quite a lot down a one-way street, keeping an eye on things. My things. The defunct mayor's wife had sent round the defunct mayor to interfere with my progress, is what you might say at best, or absolute sabotage. The chanteuse municipal policewoman had moved on to bigger and better things, and she'd been replaced with a timid, nice but dim type guy. He turned up with the mayor, defunct mayor, who sort of was probably quite handsome once upon a time. and still tries to maintain that. It's very important to his electoral process, perhaps. I couldn't say that he'd done Botox or fillers, but he definitely had a moisturising routine. And the pair of them just started talking absolute nonsense. They quite quickly recruited a couple of street sweepers type people, or two blokes that were supposed to be a bit threatening, like a bit of muscle. That four of them had come in numbers, designed to intimidate. They were asking me to come down from on high, where I was just set up ready to start. Two manual municipal men did join in the calling up at one point, but with a clumsy "Vous le mutilation" and hand gestures that brought my own fists round towards my own face. "You are here to do that to me." They soon shut up. Le mari defunct and the nice but dim policeman did eventually depart. In departing, they went past the big fellow with the bar in his garage. "What do you think of him? Is he always like this?" they're saying to him. "No, we're getting all right. He says hello when he passes in. It's quite enough." Quiet. Didn't quite fit this occasion. And they had a little chat, and they recruited his drone flying skills to, at a later date, have a look inside my property, flying through one of the voids, just to keep an eye on what's going on inside. The mayor coerces illegal trespass. I don't think I can say publishedly the F words that I was shouting to the policeman and the F words that I was shouting to the village mayor. It's not big and it's not clever. Don't try this at home, kids. We must wait and see how their powers can frustrate me out of existence in subsequent years. Instead of Brexit, governments could have just frustrated immigration. It would have been... Oh, don't get me started. So we've got the opposite of when two become one. It's 4 verses 1. I know you shouldn't, but I climb up the outside ladder on the outside of an outside ladder of a tower scaffold because I find the platforms, that flappy bit, is going to trap your fingers. It's like risking a big accident for sake of almost guaranteed smaller accident. So I'm shuttling up and down the outside ladder, and they're sort of commenting to themselves that, "Oh, you're supposed to do it like that. Looks a bit dangerous." But all the while they're shouting to me to come down and distracting me. They need me to come down and talk to them about some document, perhaps the actual wording, but you can tell just by the way they're talking that it's absolute nonsense. It's a fiction. I own that bit of public road for that week. No one need or is allowed to go through, but they are so repetitively insistent that I must let the nearest neighbour through whenever he wants to go by, or whenever anyone wants to go by. I'm asking them to please go away. I'm asking them to please go away. My French is improving, and the more passionate that I was getting with their dangerous distractions, the better my brain synapses were working. Dangereux. Vous êtes dangereux. Isn't the most adventurous vocabulary, but... Allez! Le facon dans la bas. There is no problem, you can take the little road round the back, as I didn't know that it actually belonged to the rustic neighbour. They settled into that they were just burning daylight for me until the storm arrived the next day. But in confession, I did know that the Marie wasn't important to me. He was defunct, but I can completely justify swearing at him repeatedly in English, swearing to the policeman in English, pointing out that his wife comes round and does a drive-by of me in French much too often, doing Italian hand gestures of the flat of your hand against the end of your fist. It's a butt-slapping gesture, which has been clearly understood that I'm saying that he's doing that type of sexual behaviour to me from the top of my ladder. I've also taken up bottles of wee that I'm saying to him that I will pour this down on him. But they did stay their side of the barriers. To their small credit, I suppose, it was just dangerous harassment. They did obey the law. So a beautiful sunny day, I got the tower scaffold erect. I was just taking my tools up and some of the materials up, fixing the clips to the rafters, the end of the rafters. How to run the string line from one end of the 6 metres of roof to eaves to the other end. Yeah, not so easy. You can run up and down the tower scaffold, but you have to drag it from one end to the other and adjust the stabilisers because the road is actually on a serious slope. The projection of Alpine eaves of 1.5 metres past the wall causes additional problems there. You're right in the middle of nowhere, it feels like. And the swan neck, measuring for the swan neck from the gutter to the downpipe. I've brought all the bits to suit the lengths of pipe that I'd acquired. Reused, recycled. Dry assembly is all very well, but it fell. The two shoes to join the pipes together fell. They were the only ones that I had. A particular colour I don't have in Weldom. That's the name of the bricko, the local bricko. Nowhere could I get the right diameter, black, right angle, the correct angle. So they're grey. Black gutter with two grey bits. It looks so DIY. It's heartbreaking to feel it slip and watch in slow motion as it falls down and the plastic smashes on the cold ground. And then as you try and catch it, the other end falls off and that smashes on the ground. It did cross my mind to try and glue all the pieces together, but it was smithereens. Smithereens, I tell you. But hey, I'm in one piece. I made these nice twiddly wooden brackets to space off the downpipe from the wall in anticipation of a future render and insulation system, with a little channel behind to neatly tuck away the armoured cable for some light. The downpipes are slightly undersized for regs, but to confess, but the oversized gutter and the traditional brackets without fascia type brackets, screw T shape, should help with some attenuation. Water attenuation. Water attenuation is where you try and slow everything down so everything doesn't come out down river. There's a great flood when you get a thaw, though it is usually an underground tank or oversized pipes. I overlapped with the old gutter and didn't go past the last fixing. There's like a metre of my gutter that's got the old gutter that joins directly onto the immediate neighbours. Why do I want to have some interference of, oh, that's my property line? I chickened out. I didn't want the confrontation. But I got one anyway, by proxy. J'ai perdu mon vieux défaut de trouver bizarre. The rustic neighbour had taken the role of totally reasonable. He had been called back for lunchtime. He does sometimes come back lunchtimes. He was the fourth muscle of the defunct cock, mare, peacock, and the culprit first caller that they responded to, as it turned out in the end. Rustic fellow does have a lot of friends that visit, so my next visitor might have been visiting him anyway, but I think he got a call, like a special request. So in a big 4x4 pickup truck, this older guy turns up at one of my gates when I just happened to be on the ground. No, sorry, I lie, I had to come down because he started moving my barriers. I had needed to come down anyway to get some screws or something. He looks like an old farmer, and he's trying to move my barriers and trespass on my land. Get off my land, I said to him in good viz comic fashion. I don't think he got the reference. On the ground, I was stood 3 metres away from him, increasingly, and then shouting, arguing with him, holding on to the barrier so he couldn't move it. I keep my sentences simple, like, non. Usez le petit wagon. Le derrière. Là-bas. But he would have his way and he wouldn't be challenged. It was his right to disobey the law granted on me by Le Marie Clerk of Works. He was getting frustrated the old farmer. He went to the back seat and pulled out a shooting rifle wrapped in a fabric case. He unzipped it and started pulling the butt of the rifle all the way down past the trigger, out from the sheath. Anticipating where this might lead, I preempted and started stabbing at my forehead with my finger passionately, and converting to English, it was basically shouting slightly manically, right there if you're going to. Right there, don't mess about. I'll try and recreate that a little bit better for you. Right there if you're going to. Right there! Stabbing at myself in the forehead with my finger. Quite conscious that I think legally if you say, come on, if you're going to, that's you legally consenting to being shot in the head between the eyes. But someone in the comments might be able to put me straight on that, I might be wrong. The farmer veiled his threat and went away again. Needless to say, the gendarmerie in the big town down the road had no interest in me reporting what I can be fairly sure would be a crime, drawing a gun on someone. Hey-ho, hunters are dangerous. At least I could see the danger in front of me, rather than being camouflaged in the woods somewhere while I'm mountain biking. Two manual municipal men did join in the calling up at one point, but with a clumsy "Vous êtes le mutilation" and hand gestures that brought my own fists round towards my own face. You are here to do that to me. They soon shut up. Le mari defunct and the nice but dim policeman did eventually depart. In departing, they went past the big fellow with the bar in his garage. What do you think of him? Is he always like this, they're saying to him? No, we're getting all right. He says hello when he passes in. That's quite enough. Quiet. Didn't quite fit this occasion. And they had a little chat, and they recruited his drone flying skills to, at a later date, have a look inside my property, flying through one of the voids, just to keep an eye on what's going on inside. The mayor coerces illegal trespass. I don't think I can say publishedly the F words that I was shouting to the policeman and the F words that I was shouting to the village mayor. It's not big and it's not clever. Don't try this at home, kids. We must wait and see how their powers can frustrate me out of existence in subsequent years. Instead of Brexit, governments could have just frustrated immigration. It would have been... Oh, don't get me started. Fair game to be practised on. My beautiful French chat with them.
Toi qui bouleverse, toi qui renverse tout ce qui était ma vie.
I should warn you that I tend to drive long distances and work with no radio. But I love music. It tends to come back to me and speak to me. Tell me in advance what task needs doing in what way sometimes, and just keep me company.
Un joli sourire de France, des fossettes aux joues, des cheveux tout fous, des yeux bleus très doux. Sur son berceau dès sa naissance, une bonne fée, d'un coup de baguette avait changé sa destinée.
My trade and craft skills have been hugely useful in getting me through 7 years of university. I'm an architect, technical based, as well as front-end design work, but really specialise in the maître d'œuvre end of things rather than the pretty concept pictures. Design technology teaching projects need a stages of making sheet, a bit like assembly instructions that you might get with a product that you buy. If all abilities of learners are able to fully participate.
Nice party. But you and me can do more than a friendly kiss.
This story stems from a computer guy's wife has moved out now and she's living in Chambery with the English boyfriend. With the two children, the son and the daughter, and I think sometime later, after this story, the husband has been sort of accused of something or steered towards, the daughter steered towards accusing him of something.
You're so kind, you must be blind. I'm a woman who needs a man. I'm not a man.
Supply teaching has got much longer summer holidays than regular teachers. Regular teachers start off enthusiastic and then call in sick when they start getting fed up of it. I'm in France, Easter and Christmas, and I've sort of got known for working late into the night. You want to finish a task that you've been concentrating on. And it doesn't really matter too much whether you started early in the morning or find it difficult getting up in the morning. And I'm making drill ratchet type noises quite late into the night sometimes, and they've sort of just, because I'm not there permanent, they've got used to it. And most of the time I do limit it to 9 o'clock-ish. I'm not a particularly noisy builder, you can hammer quietly. I'm not a bang crash wallop. So one evening it's winter dark, 9 o'clock, on the dot, like he's been stewing, watching the time. Head torch in the dark, not being able to see the fall. It made me a little bit braver, I think, when it came to working at height. There's no need for him to be fiddling with the bolt. I just jam the door shut. The two jams rubbing together. There's no real lock from the inside. I do actually put a big log so the wind doesn't blow it open. From the outside, his shouting's building to a crescendo, and he shuffles a bit of a run-up, and you can tell by the waggling noise the door makes. He kicks it full hard kick, flat of your foot kick, hard enough that it swings the door wide open, bangs against the back wall, pushes the stump flying.
I'm not a man. I want more fun. Give me pleasure and thank you for the tango.
And he stood there, like here's Johnny, and takes a couple of steps inside. There's a fair few gaps between the floorboards that he'll manage to fall through, down onto the top surface of the arches below. There's a fair few gaps in the big, thick, wide floorboards that I'm hoping he's going to manage to step off, graze his leg up to the thigh, falling through to the top side of the curved cave arches below.
Thanks a bunch for the nice lunch. Now I'm waiting for something more.
So he's outside the barn door, talking loudly, shouting for me to come to the door, and why would you? And I know you're in there, and shining his torch and stuff like that. But me not responding just encouraged him. And he's ranting and raving, proper shouting, and his daughter can't get to sleep or something. He's not really setting a very good example for her, if she's actually there, because he quite often says that, and they hardly ever stay these days. The Chanteuse policewoman has said to me, you are allowed to make noise. I haven't been trying to wind him up, and I'm not making any more noise. I've noticed the time, I'm just having to tidy up, and then I've time for Betty buys. So he's outside the barn door, talking loudly, shouting for me to come to the door, and why would you? And I know you're in there, and shining his torch and stuff like that. But me not responding just encouraged him. And he's ranting and raving, properly shouting, and his daughter can't get to sleep or something. He's not really setting a very good example for her if she's actually there, because he quite often says that, and they hardly ever stay these days. The chanteuse policewoman has said to me, "You are allowed to make noise." I haven't been trying to wind him up, and I'm not making any more noise. I've noticed the time. I'm just having to tidy up, and then time for Betty buys. He's
Mademoiselle Froment, mentir se parlez-vous?
winding himself up. He's demanding and shouting that I must come and talk to him. How dare I ignore him and all that sort of thing. So he unlocks the bolt from the outside and steps inside with his torch. Now, no one's done this, and it's a dangerous thing to do. I'm just saying, get out, get out. It's a violation. I can see exactly where the chink in the door, the gape in the door is, because he's pointing the light on the ground floor and around, and there's a space either side. I'm 2 floors up, and I'm shouting back at him loud, increasingly louder. Get out! Get out, close the door, in my most serious authoritative voice. Still demanding that I must talk to him.
Elle n'avait pas encore parlé, qu'elle savait déjà chanter. Mademoiselle Froment, mentir.
Come down and talk to him. Down a rickety ladder, standing at the bottom of the nutcase, standing at the bottom of it. No. I'm saying it is dangerous. So knowing exactly where he is, I'm throwing stuff down from 2 floors up. And he's getting frightened and leaves. I'm saying it is dangerous. Before and after. Before, during and after. He's getting frightened and he leaves. And in one motion, draws the bolt closed, so I'm locked into my own house. Knowing full well what he's doing, drawing the bolt closed from the outside. Still, sight only facilitated by street lights, and turned the head torch off. When the drama had subsided, I had to disassemble a few things, and climb out through a high first ground floor window, and drop down on the outside.
When you're too tense, it's common sense, relaxez-vous. The more you earn, the less you learn to relaxez-vous.
À la vôtre.
À la vôtre. Cheers.
So one of the more immediate of the 4 neighbours that I have anything to do with, really. You might call him a rustic fellow, but savvy when it comes to a deal. Used to work with a friend of his. I say a friend of his, they used to drink beer outside his house quite a lot after work. It turns out I left him a case of beer on his doorstep as a thank you very much. I asked his favourite brand first. 64.
À la vôtre.
À la vôtre. Cheers.
We French, you'll find are more inclined to relaxez-vous. Relax, 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 relaxez-vous.
Just went straight to the gendarmerie police station. They don't really man the night desk like anywhere, but I did manage to get to speak to someone. No real interest at all. They were getting quite aggressive with me for bothering to report something. I spent the evening writing it all down, what had happened, and then the next day went off to the main town down the valley, the procureur, the judge offices there. They have like investigative judges in France. How do you feel about not particularly noisy, occasional neighbours? Do you kick their door down if there's something that you don't like? What sort of redress do you think is appropriate? Unlawful imprisonment is when you stop someone leaving. It wasn't just a break-in. I managed to convey these legal principles to a completely different legal system, but to no avail. I take my folder of written information, my little note on the door and that, into the local procureur's bureau, up to the ladies at the front desk behind the glass, behind bulletproof glass, I suppose. and I'm a bit of a curiosity, and I draw a bit of a crowd. There's 3 of them, each of them seems to know different English words, and they're all helping each other out. But I can't submit these documents. I'm failing to submit these documents. It's not possible to report it or record it in any way, it seems. There's something about how they're talking, and they're talking to each other, almost like the tense of how they're talking, that I'm starting to realise something. Come to a realisation. They're telling me that they know he's had some difficulties recently and he's had a tough time. They talk to him. My nearest neighbour, the computer guy, works with them, and it sorts out their computer problems for them. He does the whole local government area. They get my point that just because I'm English as well, it's not my problem that his wife's left him for an English guy. And I don't think I can't report it because they're being nepotistic. Well, there's a bit of information. That first Christmas he didn't want to tell me. He left me with the impression that he did websites for people. I'm trying to report a crime that's been carried out by someone that works for the judge's office. But crafting things is supposed to be very good for your mental health. With such a big project, I must be very bon santé. The security system that I acquired with the property consisted of a padlock suitable for a children's school locker. Winter winds howling through voids where shutters once were, long banged free. Just stumps of kincalvy in the wall. In architectural terms, you talk of solid and void, voids being the window openings in the wall. The property consisted of voids. You could put a ladder up to a window, pull the ladder in, put the ladder back down from the window to the floor. Now, I'm not one to install a security system so I can push the boundaries elsewhere, but I thought I might improve on this. And but you don't want to board up the windows, do you? Because then you're not letting any light in at all. I devised that I could board them up with glass. I could buy some cheap windows and put them in. The mayor of the village sent me a letter to England. What are you doing with your property? Can you regularise it? I said that as an ask, but it was definitely a demand. I'm on the edge of one village, which is on the edge of a town, but the village Marie is halfway up the mountain. That took a bit of figuring, but I went to the town hall, big, new, expensive looking building next to the school. I haven't looked round, but I think it's a small office in a big polyvalent type building, like a hall, community hall, of which there tend to be quite a few. The bureau of the Marie is obviously open only for a few hours a day and only a few days a week. We quite quickly managed to get to, and it's a good thing. I speak English and they speak French, both slowly, and we sort of managed to understand something. When frustration builds, they do tend to go to no, je ne comprends pas. My position was... Now, I can't remember exactly what stage I said it, but at some point, just to clarify what I was talking to them about, my frustration was, this is racism, because I'm English. This wouldn't be happening if I wasn't a foreigner. So the police were called. That isn't quite how it sounds. They were calling someone that they knew spoke very good English. Not because they were policemen, but because she's a singer, a chanteuse. The policewoman chanteuse doesn't fit that well in my mind, but it is the police municipal rather than the gendarmerie. And so through songs growing up, songs that she liked, she became excellent at English. As you might suspect, she was very pleasant, but I did still have to maintain something of the why do I have to do this? Slightly irate, while at the same time having in my back pocket the plans, the sections and elevations that they'd asked me to provide. It's a bit like, in my mind, you don't put more information online than you absolutely need to. I did point out that one of the documents they required didn't really translate very well. It turns out it's a bit like a topographical map, a location plan, which they actually provided, and I thanked them copiously, so they knew I wasn't really misrepresenting myself. I fluctuated in regularised wavelengths with the police person and the office staff between personable, polite irritation, personal respect without obviously respecting the uniform. She doesn't sing in the uniform. The policewoman, he was even quite attractive in a short haircut type of way. To cut an hour of my afternoon short, I handed all my documents in and got a form stamped to show that I had done so. In the drawings I had skipped on ahead a little bit, so to try and anticipate, so I didn't have to reapply every time I put a screw into a board. But they had existing and proposed that looked very similar, because I'd put sort of boards, vertical boards over the windows. We'll call them jail boards, so you know what I'm talking about, but they do have another name that escapes me at the moment. I'm going to look that up actually. I found that out when I was reading all about French building regs a while back in Britain. So that's what I set about doing. At this stage I hardly knew that Brico existed. There are so many of them. But at this stage I found something that looked a bit like B&Q and the windows were a good price. Without a single breakage, I managed to do a 4-hour round trip and got the right-handed windows and doors. The far from trouble-free interaction at the back depot of the main magazine. From helpful but rather disinterested staff. Somewhat confused with me pretty much jamming 24 windows into the back of one van. I'm trying to ask, when will you have the ones that you have missing, that you said that you had on the website, in stock? It's funny how a shrug of shoulders seems to communicate. It depends when it comes in from the Philippines. They've got a little proud little sticker on the windows. It was to turn out that getting those few windows that they didn't have in stock, the 10% took so much more effort in procurement and sourcing terms. Oh, how many bricots are there? Shall I count their names? You would think I loved them, the amount of time that I spent on them. Searching in circles.
Toi, ma petite folie, mon petit grain de fantaisie. Toi qui bouleverse, toi qui renverse tout ce qui était ma vie.
Si je dois écouter ma propre voix en essayant ce cahier, ceci c'est ta vie, autant essayer de vérifier et d'améliorer ma prononciation du français.
Lentement, s'il vous plaît. Électrique, usé, pour entraîner-vous à parler et rien d'autre. They smile. Is that because they understand me? Or just because they're being polite? Government officials, a fair game to be practised on. My beautiful French, chat with them. All at once and all for nothing. Le O, 1 month. Électrique, 3 years. Usé, 5 years. License print money, rip-off.
Mon petit grain de fantaisie.
Design technology teaching projects need a stages of making sheet, a bit like assembly instructions that you might get with a product that you buy, if all abilities of learners are able to fully participate. My trade and craft skills have been hugely useful in getting me through 7 years of university. I'm an architect, technical based, as well as front-end design work, but really specialise in the maître d'œuvre end of things rather than the pretty concept pictures. Exchange rates again. I got the van from Deutsche Post in Germany and made it a bargain. It was a bargain. I had to have something done to the clutch on registering it in Britain.
Romantic drive in the moonlight. Now you're wishing me good night.
Some time previously, a mechanic in Britain had switched the clutch over. I didn't realise that would mean a little bit of reversing up a steep hill, bang, and the clutch has gone both sides of it. In a few months' time, I wouldn't have had breakdown cover it would have been older than 10 years old. But as it was, best part of £1,000 with the French mechanic doing me a favour. Most of it covered by them. But watch those strange accommodation charges and things. I started cutting out these holes with a 240 12-inch angle grinder on UK 240 cables all the way down to a generator, small petrol generator outside. It was heavy going through the granite. My neighbour had different ideas. He was drinking beer with his friends and didn't like the smell and the noise and decided to kick the generator, and it all came to a stop. Turns out it was a better idea to hammer and bolster the individual stones out, but still don't have a generator. But crafting things is supposed to be very good for your mental health. With such a big project, I must be very bon santé.
You're so kind, you must be blind. I'm a woman who needs a man. I'm not a man, I want more fun. Give me pleasure and thank you for the tango.
I should warn you that I tend to drive long distances and work with no radio. But I love music. It tends to come back to me and speak to me, tell me in advance what task needs doing in what way sometimes. and just keep me company.
We French, you'll find, are more inclined to relaxez-vous. Relax, 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 relaxez-vous. Un joli sourire de France, des fossettes aux joues, des cheveux tout fous, des yeux bleus très doux. Sur son berceau dès sa naissance, une bonne fée, d'un coup de baguette avait changé sa destinée.
A First World War song about French girls, to my mind. Rinky Dink. That's a pedal-powered sound system to be found at protests. One quite often drives Dunkirk and skirts the Belgian border, Ardennes and Meuse River to the Jura. It's long, and there's so many memorials. First World War memorials, Maginot Line. Grandad never got as far as the Maginot Line. Dunkirk, in logistics, they had to turn round and go back to Dunkirk, wait in line on a beach, getting dive-bombed by Stukas, with his officer that usually sat next to him as he drove, watching unwise pushers in, getting beaten up by MPs and threatened to be shot, chucked at the back of the queue. All you could do was sit there in the queue, the target line, and wait for your turn. When I knew him, he never liked little boats. Insecurity. He later got sent to North Africa. Even Reims route is a fairly sombre driving experience for me.
Sous le ciel de Paris s'envole une chanson.
Gay Paris. At least it was around the Gare du Nord area. A little bit of everything. Especially where they were doing a bit of filming, where I managed to find a free parking spot and tucked away the Mini. Perhaps some people use that as a euphemism for a boyfriend. This garret's got views.
Elle est née d'aujourd'hui dans le cœur d'un garçon.
But better to drive and have a hotel, a garret at the top, rather than mess up my connections like I have done before, and have to sleep rough in a shop doorway until the trains start running again. The gendarmerie chucking me and my new mates out while we're listening to the last guy playing the piano in the echoing hall.
Sous le ciel de Paris marchent des amoureux.
In Paris, so much better with better company. Someone with some Roland Garros knowledge. Some of you don't even know what that is, do you? It's tennis. Rough as hallowed clay. Not under the Eiffel Tower big screen this year.
Leur bonheur se construit sur un air fait pour eux.
Go on, like and subscribe. Bonne santé. Au revoir pour aujourd'hui. Topographic pinch point, feudal gatekeeper power house. Hissing Sid really didn't want to be rescued.
Bonsoir. Bienvenue dans notre émission Amour toujours.
Traditional cartoon snap trap should have scared them off, judging by the neurotic hyper nibbling of the wire bar immediately after they went after the food. Swallowed a spider to catch a fly, who swallowed a mouse.
Le véritable amour est l'infini, éternel. Mais parfois il se fatigue aussi. Mais vous inquiétez pas parce que je suis là. Indra, la más grande hipnotizadora del mundo mundial de la televisión, tiene la solución. Mon grand pouvoir, c'est de faire revivre l'amour qui semble perdu ici, mais qui continue très vivant là. Clara, musica.
Fontaine is pure, but river water turns the container green quickly. Only one thing for it. Pop to the shop and have something to eat.
À ceux qui n'en ont pas. À ceux qui n'en ont pas.
For good sweep times 12 bin bags.
Frotter, frotter. Mieux vaut ne pas si. Frotter, frotter. Si tu ne me connais pas, brosser, brosser. Tu pourras toujours te.
Troweling and troweling to a polish. Next day, wet, soak and polish again. And again. And you get it. Or happy campers visits from local outdoor Olympic pool and slide campsite.
Jamais contre toi. Moi je m'en doutais, moi je m'en doutais, moi je m'en doutais. Tu t'en iras comme tous les autres hommes avant toi. J'ai froissé les trains de soie.
pleased with this 55 metres squared of floor.
L'info en 2 minutes. Je souhaite mieux dormir, être moins stressé et apaiser ma douleur.
Alors là, j'ai l'adresse qu'il te faut. Genius CBD.
Genius CBD?
Exactement.
You're not a dream, you're not an angel, you're a man. I'm not a queen, I'm a woman. Take my hand, we'll make a space in the lives that we planned. And here we'll stay until it's time for you to go.
After so many garagistes tell me le motel est morte and do a cutting action on their throat and then mutilate it a bit further and getting it repaired and back to England and sorted out once it's in England from the half-baked job that the French garagist, overconfident, underskilled and half-fitted out work on the motel. After that, I've delivered my next load down to my barn and I'm empty and I'm heading north, back to England. I've done a lot of I got out of the habit a long time ago now, really, of putting 3 litres of vegetable oil in my diesel tank, making sure that I had a 50-50 mix with what was already diesel that was already there. It came to parity with the price of vegetable oil and the price of diesel. It seems to be coming round again, though. Especially in France, there's a vegetable oil shortage, don't you know? Especially when it comes to 2-for-1 offerte. Shelves are empty. Almost immediately. Work it out for yourself. People aren't daft. €2.10 for 1 litre of diesel for your vehicle. You can take advantage of the 2-for-1 offerte. Supermarkets in France aren't that great on their special offers. €3.50 for 3 litres. Once again, gasol, €2.10 for 1 litre. Even without any special offers on, if they're off the shelf straight away. €2.50 for 2 litres. It's fairly commonplace, fairly straightforward. Why is there a vegetable oil shortage? We all know why, but no one's writing it in a paper. It's propaganda. For ethical reasons and for health and safety reasons. Renewables, hydroelectric power, needs to be accelerated more than governments say that it needs to be accelerated. Because nuclear is the option, the other option. Nuclear isn't an option, it's a potential disaster. Fail-safes put in place, of course. There's the ethics of oil from Russia. That's always going to be a problem. That's always going to cause wars. It's a type of ethics. But no one's done anything about that. A HEP building here in the valley, near me. Beautifully over-designed. It's over-designed in the thickness of the rusty steel that's been used, but it's a utility functional building, and it's designed and detailed better than so much in Britain. That's supposed to be art. That's not just utility. Is that the architect? Is that the financial setup? I think it's the financial setup, quite honestly. Perhaps architects don't need to focus on making money so much. Perhaps it's all reputation, because there isn't so much work about.
We French, you'll find, are more inclined to relaxez-vous. Relax, 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 relaxez-vous.
A method statement is usually a written way of doing something safely. They are all in my head, but I'm very aware of my method statements and I consider them very safe. You can remove a hazard, you can replace a hazard, you can isolate a hazard, or you can protect from. That's from most effective to least effective. So like PPE that protects you, that's like the least effective measure. You don't need to protect for something that you've removed as a risk. So it is something that is used only one trade in an area of a building site at any time. That is a method statement. Method. For me, I'm only ever going to be the only trade in the barn. That is an elimination of the slapstick type humour that you get in building sites sometimes. Not really so much one-upmanship, just a sort of arrogance of a big fish in a small sea, or I'm the most important person for me, for my price. I have tried to eliminate, I've replaced temporary structures to get to a level as much as possible. You have to erect these structures, and that's a risk. Scaffolding I'm talking about really there, aren't I? You can isolate things with administrative controls and engineering controls. Just change things, how things are done. You won't see me with gloves on. You will see me with masks on. I'm just emphasising this because you will probably get instructional videos at some point in time of how to scribe a piece of material to irregular shaped surface, like skirting board or something, while creating a lot of mess, or the not creating a lot of waste method. It's like skiing an empty ski slope. There's no one for you to crash into, no one to crash into you, no mixed abilities to... Some of you have been skiing recently and you will know that. beauty of COVID. So safe skiing. For curries, smuggle your own patax packet, because it's rare that you'll find a good French curry, and those patax packets are rare in Lidl or other else. Continental shovels, shall I call them? Oh, I just can't use them. It's all about the grippy hand thing on the shaft. The balance is perfect for scooping. You'll be some of these British bloggers in France need them for. Working to UK regulations on their electrics, which are quite different. My minor act of rebellion in that respect was using double insulated British cables, but with a French single insulated earth. One of the biggest tricks is that the earth on the 3-core and earth on the British regs, the earth isn't insulated, so it doesn't pass the French regs. What have I done with the British uninsulated earth that's doing nothing? I'm thinking about tying it to the multifoil insulation so that any earth build-up in the multifoil insulation gets transferred to ground. Blocked in again. I do feel cheated, and it is harassment, but do I want to take my neighbour to court and log in the incidents, or do I want to have a Vichy tantrum? Neither. So my preference on the night before I go home is to sleep out in the van down the road. A pleasant enough little spot. I see the jogger go by in the morning when I wake through the steamy windows. Concrete coming did work once for a little while, but it's like the neighbours, it's like a kids wind up game trying to get reaction, so don't give them a reaction. Like food cuisine tourism and boots tourism used to be a thing for people coming to Britain. Bio shop tourism, by the looks of things, must surely be a big thing. Similar brands but different. Different brands, different obsessions. But 3 in one small town, 3 bio shops, fully stocked like this. The population can't support it. Brexit gives duty-free shops a little bit more of a focus, but what do I bring back? Oh, there's the regulations. Perfume, bio stuff, you even allowed. A set of perfume and scented things. Alcohol, too much choice. 3-panel log burner, that's what I'd like to bring back, but it's the COVID thing, they're not on special offer. It was holding me back again. It's a long way north to think what I'm going to do when I get to Pays de Calais. When I get to the former coal mining region, do I go nuclear to get my van deposit back from the supermarket that I rented it from? Do I try and recover the engine code reset, €200, by fair means or foul? I didn't come up with an answer. Looking at the price of a litre of wine. It's not a litre though, is it? It's 750 millilitres. Price of a bottle of wine, perfectly drinkable bottle of wine, it can be as low as €1.50, but you're usually €2. Same price as diesel. Now, I'm not recommending you put wine into your gas tank. It's just you can choose your route through France by what wine regions you go through. So I vary mine from the Burgundy region, through the Jura sometimes, through the Savoy region, and then Chambery. It sort of peters out, strictly speaking, before you get to the heights of Isere. But then you can vary that with Burgundy region, Beaujolais, and Val d'Aron wines, and pick some up along the way. Quite often you'll go into a wine shop, off licence, it's not an off licence, it's a wine shop, and be able to put wine in your own container from a pump, very similar to a petrol pump, but slightly. And back to the 3-process grind. Living the dream, living in a dream. Which is worse, dental drills or the making of them? I'm asking myself. Engine fuel, it was an engine fuel injection. The pins, the tapered and polished pins. Or were they engine fuel injection pins? Double tapered and polished pins? I must tell you about inadvertently covering for the Czech woman, I think she was. Young skinny Czech woman that ate nothing but sweets, and her skipping out at midnight on the night shift, and covering that by covering, in animal breeding terms, the shift supervisor. I've got to tell you about that sometime.